Coming up on Wealth Magazine Business Access, we'll be speaking with Yaneek Page, a trailblazer who has embarked on a journey to transform how SMEs do business. Being an entrepreneur herself, Yaneek will tell how she got into business on a shoestring budget and made a name for herself as an executive producer, business coach, and the managing director for Future Services International.
I'm Yaneek Page, Managing Director, Future Services International. Yaneek Page is an entrepreneur who is living on purpose. My focus is to empower people. I'm a social entrepreneur, and any business that I'm involved in is usually one that is socially driven, one that I measure success by the impact that I'm able to have on people's lives. So I started as a pioneer in legal funding and litigant support, and have diversified into a number of different areas, in particular business support services, a big focus on building Jamaica's entrepreneurial ecosystem, and a more sophisticated entrepreneurial class, right? People who are focused on starting businesses out of opportunities, and being able to create jobs and wealth for themselves and really make Jamaica a better place. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, right? And so I try to create balance in all of those roles. I was born at Nuttall Hospital, and I started school at Immaculate Prep. That's my earliest memory of school. Just a very strong sense of discipline. I kind of grew up for some of my life with both my parents. Eventually, my parents got divorced, and so I pretty much grew up in a single-parent household, right? With a very driven mother who was very entrepreneurial, father, same thing. And so I kind of developed that passion for entrepreneurship very early. Very early, we were taught that the way that you actually earn an income is through hard work and creating value for other people. When I was young, I didn't have any confidence. I really didn't. And I would walk with my head down like this. And my father would say, walk with your head up. And it's something I didn't understand, why he would drill it and he would insist. But now I realize that once you get your children to develop that sense of confidence, they are able to do almost anything, right? Because if you build yourself, I believe you can build almost anything. After Immaculate Prep, went to Immaculate High. I passed for Immaculate High School and enjoyed my years there until I got to fourth form. And in fourth form, you have to choose your subjects that you're going to do in CXC. And I wanted to do a mixture of the arts and the sciences. And at Immaculate High, they pretty much allowed you to choose, but then they would make the final decision for you. And I didn't get any subjects that I wanted. And so I moved. My mother was able to transfer me to St. Andrew High. The first term in fourth form, I started at Immaculate and then I transferred to St. Andrew High for girls. And I did 2 years there and was able to do exactly what I wanted to do. So from very early, you kind of see the kind of parents that I did have, because my mother was very focused on, I want you to do what you want to do. And I'm not even going to allow the school system to restrict you in terms of determining your future. And that's something that was very impactful for me. It's something that as a parent, I try to emulate myself. My high school years were my worst years. A big part of that was because my parents were going through a divorce, and it was very traumatic on the entire family. And those are things that I still remember. And life just completely changed, and it was very difficult to kind of manage that adjustment. The second thing is that when I actually passed common entrance and got to high school, I couldn't see anything. I remember going to class and I could not see the board. And actually, I remember that I couldn't see from even common entrance, right? I remember I couldn't see. And what was interesting was that I was actually very nearsighted and didn't realize and didn't say anything. And so I would actually just tune out of all the classes because I couldn't see. I was at the back, can't see the blackboard, and I wasn't learning anything. And so for years, it wasn't until really catastrophe when, I was pretty much failing in almost every single subject area, that, they decided that, okay, we need to get this child some psychological help, and we need to see what's going on. And in all of those investigations, I realized that, the changes were having an impact on me, and that I couldn't see. And just actually getting glasses changed my whole life, because I started to perform better. But at the same time, I think a lot of the fundamentals had been lost. That platform was really, when in first form you should be mastering a lot of the subject areas. I didn't do it then, and so I literally struggled throughout high school. And it wasn't because I was dunce, And it's amazing. I think, and I like to say this. Children bloom and people bloom at their own time and their own pace. And we have an educational system that still does not recognize that children go through different things, and that people go through different things, and that they will bloom at different times. And it's the same for all of us. And that they have different likes and different areas of specialization and things that they are better at. But we kind of have this one-size-fits-all. And I was very fortunate, because there are many people who have gone through the education system who have a lot of potential in several different areas. But without that strong family support, they'll actually never reach their potential. And that for me is sad and disheartening. And it's something that I hope that we can change and impact, because it's something that really holds us back as a people. I remember that I had a history teacher who I cared for so much. She was somebody that I really liked. And I remember her saying that she didn't think that I would amount to much, And it was very impactful, because here was a teacher that I was fond of, who was already pronouncing, right? And who was really unkind. And it kind of was that moment when I thought, okay, I'm not going to amount to much. It's amazing. And for years I carried that. And I remember when I started my first business at 17, and things were really down. I started my first business, and after 2 years I had to close it. It was devastating. I worked very hard. I worked 6 days a week at a beauty and skincare store. And we did beauty products, manicure, pedicure. And everything was just wrong in terms of the location that we chose was wrong. There wasn't adequate parking. It was upstairs. We didn't have a budget for marketing. The products were too expensive. They were imported. I was just doing everything wrong. This is why until you build yourself, you can't really build anything. And I remember that when I was at rock bottom, I was thinking, boy, all these people were right. I'm not going to amount to much. But my mother had this thing that she would constantly say. She would say, Yaneek, the stone that the builder refuses will become the cornerstone. Yaneek, the stone that the builder refuses will become the cornerstone. And she would repeat it to me again and again. And even when I felt like this was the end, even when I actually had to close the store and I was broke, I owed everybody. I remember being somewhere and being so thirsty. I said this up to recently, being somewhere and being so thirsty. And I couldn't afford to buy a drink. And I remember looking for every dollar coin I could find, and it wasn't enough to buy a drink. And I was stuck at this place for several hours. And this nice man came to me and started talking. And I was like, okay, this man is trying to pick me up. And eventually he said, can I buy you a drink? Listen, if I didn't believe in God up to that point, that was because I really felt like I was going to faint from exhaustion and heat and dehydration. And here is this man just out of the blue. God just sent him to buy me a drink. He really did, and I was so grateful. But to this day, if I drop a dollar coin anywhere, if I go to the US and drop a penny, I am certain I'm not leaving it. It's a principle that has stuck with me. Every dollar is valuable because I remember what it was like to be at rock bottom. Years ago, I was seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident. And I suffered head injuries. My head had to be shaved. and actually had other complications as a result of that. My entrepreneurship career pretty much started at age 17. I had done sixth form in 1 year, and I was ready to start a business. I didn't see myself going back to school. It just wasn't something that I wanted for myself. So I kind of grew up seeing everybody in business, and I wanted to do that. And again, I had the work ethic right. I had the ambition right. What I lacked was the knowledge. I wasn't mature enough. I didn't have the education, and so I needed to have built myself. So that 2 years was a heck of a lesson, right? I worked very hard, 6 days a week, very long hours, and the only time I ever remember being paid was during peak season, like Christmas, Valentine's Day. But outside of that, I was literally bearing hungry for 2 years. And at the end of that period, my mother decided that you're going to go back to school. And she said if she have to sell every piece of furniture in the house, she's going to find a way for me to go to university. And she did that, and I literally scraped in with her pushing me. If it wasn't for her, it wouldn't have happened, would never. And I give her everything for that. And so I literally scraped into university, had to work and go to school. I got in at what you call lower level matriculation, which is really when you barely get in. And so I decided that I was going to work very hard. And I decided that I knew what it felt like to be at the bottom, and I didn't want to be there anymore. And then she would keep repeating, the stone that the builder refuses will become the cornerstone. So when I got to the University of the West Indies, right, I worked really hard. All the lecturers knew me by name. I would sit at the front of the class. A lot of these lecturers would still remember me because I was a person who would ask a lot of questions. I really did read for my degree, and everything was applicable to me. This is why I strongly believe that there's such huge value in working and going to school. And I think if everybody had the opportunity to do that, would be better off, because there was a big difference between myself going to university and my colleagues who had never worked. They weren't as focused. They weren't as diligent. And I had everything to lose, and so at the end of doing my first degree, I did a degree in management studies and psychology. I actually won a scholarship to do a master's in development studies with a concentration in social policy, and that was a big thing for me because I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. Unfortunately, I won an academic scholarship, and then I did that and did exceptionally well at the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies, and I graduated at the top of my class with distinction. I copped every award, and it's fascinating because I really believe that people bloom at different times. So here was a C student throughout high school who then went on to, top my cohort at the university, in postgraduate studies, we have some very distinguished politicians, and even our Prime Minister, who was in my cohort at Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies. So, we really had very brilliant people there. And, it's a testament, I think, to just the fact that, when you work hard, doesn't matter what your circumstances were before or how hard you struggled. Once you want it, and it's your time, and you own it, you can achieve it. My professional career, post-university, involved, teaching and research. I actually was a teaching and research assistant at the University of the West Indies. And after that, I, went into social policy. I was, my focus was really on how do I solve social problems. That was a very important thing for me. And so I worked in several different organizations, companies, but at the back of my mind, I always wanted to start a business. And let me tell you which business I wanted to start. And I don't think I've ever shared this on camera before. I know I've never. Okay, so this will be the first time I'm sharing this. Years ago, I was seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident. And I suffered head injuries. My head had to be shaved. And I actually had other complications as a result of that. And at the time, I was entitled to not only have all of my medical bills paid for, but all of the pain and suffering. There were so many other things that I was entitled to, and that nobody told me about. So here it was that I suffered this major accident, which really set me back, and nobody told me what my rights were. And it wasn't until the 6 years passed, so 6 years, where the statute of limitation has been exhausted, that's it, that I actually learned what my rights were. And so I always wanted to make an impact in the area of justice. And so that was a motivation for starting Future Services International, which is Jamaica's first legal funding and litigant support company, first in the Caribbean to offer that kind of service. So that what happened to me would not happen to anybody else. It wouldn't have to happen. And that company has been transformational in so many ways in this Jamaican landscape. And so many people have been able to access the formal justice system because of funding that we've provided, right? And that's something that I'm very grateful for. I think it's purpose. Sometimes we go through really horrible things, and the aim is for you to really learn and make an impact so others don't go through it. Sometimes you ask, why me? And you kind of say, well, why not me? Because I'm the person who can actually and until you felt it, you don't know what people go through. And I felt it. And so, interestingly enough, having launched Future Services and having seen clients who actually got justice, we would follow up with them, right? I'm really passionate about following up with people, see how they're doing. 6 months later, people would tell us that they exhaust their settlements. These are people who couldn't work. And so I realized that people actually needed financial advice, right? They needed to better spend this money because some of them couldn't work after. So I approached financial institutions, wrote to them, called them, would you be willing to give financial advice to our clients? And they said, no, this is not, these are not customers that we would want, because pretty much is what they were saying, because they get one-off settlements. And when they put their money in, they're just going to come and take it out. So it's expensive. They just didn't see them as valuable clients. And so you know what I did? I started doing business training for clients, started offering workshops, and that's what piqued my interest in terms of how do I actually move on to become a certified entrepreneurship trainer. And then I started doing work with the Young Entrepreneurs Association, and I realized that people needed advice and support. And then I thought about my own journey as a young entrepreneur, and that, you know, if I had the knowledge, I don't know where I would be. So I said, well, you know, let's do this on a big scale, right? Because I had been exposed to television and I had the skills. I knew how to actually try to create a program, and so that's how I actually ended up creating The Innovators, right? Which is a TV show that really has helped so many entrepreneurs. The aim is to get people to think about, how do I start a business? How do I do it in the right way? What are the resources that are available to me? And so that's the platform, and that's how I got into that. I have a new company, and it's called Market Entry USA. It's registered in the United States. And the problem that this company will solve for many Caribbean businesses is access to the US market and connections within the US market. And the reality is that governments and experts have been telling entrepreneurs for years that you cannot focus on your market alone. You have to try to export your goods and your services, and you have to find more attractive markets, and you have to earn foreign exchange. And Market Entry USA will be doing that. And that's what's exciting for 2017. One of the things that I've been very fortunate to experience is a lot of exposure globally, both on the entrepreneurial space generally, as an entrepreneurship trainer. I'm a writer for MasterCard. I'm a writer for the Sunday Gleaner, and it's Miss MasterCard Caribbean, and my articles are now translated in Spanish for MasterCard Colombia, and that's great impact, right? It means that anybody, you don't have to have any big last name, you can look just like me, and all you need is that education or the skill that you want to develop, and you can really globally make an impact. I've focused a lot on helping women. Women in business has been my passion, and young people in business as well, but especially women, because I grew up with a single mother who was an entrepreneur, who worked very hard and who just didn't have all the facilities that she needed. So it's very difficult in terms of childcare, in terms of taking care of her own, you take care of the elderly, the children, and financially it's hard, right? So I am the official representative for We Connect International in the Caribbean. I represent the Caribbean. We Connect is a global nonprofit, one of the largest and most well-respected for women entrepreneurs globally. What I've been able to do is to get We Connect to come to the Caribbean. And what We Connect does is that it enables women, business owners, who want to access global markets and global networks to do so. And it's through certification as well as education and empowerment and actual, making those connections and bringing them to the table with corporates who are actually looking to do business with women. I will focus on businesses not because they have the potential to generate huge profits. Other people can do that. We have enough of those entrepreneurs. I focus on businesses that can make this country a better place, this region a better place, this world a better place. That is my vision. And I need to do that and at the same time maintain my role as a mother, a wife, and that I also take care of Yaneek. And that means that there has to be balance and harmony. So I have now, I'm not afraid to say, I have probably an abundance of opportunities. There is no shortage. There's an abundance. And it's very difficult for me to be able to push back and say, remember your purpose, remember your focus. And sometimes people aren't too happy because they want you to do all these things. And yes, but you just have to remember that the goal is not to be rich. The goal is to focus on where you can make the most impact and where you can add the most value and what really your purpose is. Truthfully, for young people who kind of want to figure stuff out, I'll tell you that I think the best decision I made was choosing the right partner. I've been married for 13 years this year. And my husband and I have 2 boys. And, family is very important, right? For us, it really is the most critical thing. And so we try to make sure that we make space for that. More and more, we're focused on living a healthy lifestyle, setting a good example for the boys, spending more time with them, getting them into several activities. And really, I don't want to be that parent who is never available. And I'll tell you the truth, I remember my parents working so hard that I don't recall them picking me up from school very often. I don't recall them being at every single event. They tried, but they were so into working so hard to, and I don't want to do that. And that's something that I've made a commitment that it's just not going to be me. I'm going to be that parent who makes the time to drop you at school and to pick you up, and I want to hear how your day has gone, and I want to spend time with you doing homework, and I want to kind of, enjoy those moments with you so that you know that this is what matters most, And my husband has very similar values, and it's helpful because I think when I reflect on my journey, there are many people who have had an impact on me, and probably my biggest supporter and the person who has really made so much possible for me is my husband. And I have to recognize that you can't do it alone, and you need that strong family support. And then, it helps when you have that type of partner. And, truthfully, for young people who kind of want to figure stuff out, I'll tell you that I think the best decision I made was choosing the right partner and learning very early that we were going to set certain goals and that we were going to go on this path together, because you're stronger together. I really believe that. But having an enabling relationship has been so helpful for my journey. So when I do travel, I don't necessarily have to worry because I do have that strong support. And I have a big cheerleader, and I have a sounding board, and I have a friend, and that's something that is, can't trade that for the world. That's everything. What makes me jump out of bed every morning is a firm, honest belief that God has called me to this. I believe that. I believe that this is my purpose. And I believe that people are relying on me, and I can change people's lives. And I have the power to do it, and I know I have been doing it. And if I don't do it, there's going to be a void. So that's what makes me jump out, because people are relying on me in so many different spheres. For years, I've offered mentorship to younger people. I really do a lot in terms of, when I just started business, one of the things that was mandatory was that everybody had to actually give back service. And we would go to, several, for example, missionaries of the poor, and we would volunteer our time. It's not just giving money, it's kind of understanding what the needs are in this country, how people are suffering, and what help you can give, and really just experiencing, because it makes you more grateful and at the same time more determined to make an impact. And one of the best things for me recently was that I went to a pharmacy recently, and I was looking for something, and this young girl who works there said to me, I can help you, but do you remember me? But I meet so many people, so I said, I'm sure I met her, but I can't remember exactly. And she said, you mentored me. I'm from the inner city, and she told me the community, and you are my mentor. And her name is Casey. And she said, thank you. And it brought tears to my eyes, because here was this young girl who literally every night, gunshot, and she had blossomed into this radiant, just articulate, wonderful young girl. And I had an impact in some way. And I've had other people contact me who I mentored years ago. And so if you can afford to share your time, your wisdom, anything with other people, especially those who are in the position that you were in, oh my God, many of us forget where we start. That's everything. It's not about the money. Not about cutting a check and you have the PR. What is that? It's not about that, right? It's about really making an impact and touching people. Everything is about people. Wealth for me is living your purpose, doing what you're passionate about, being happy while you're doing it, being happy about the person you are and that you have become, and really enjoying a wholesome life, right? Which means you don't compromise your family, you don't compromise your values, you don't compromise the things that you really stand for, and that you make an impact, a real impact. It's not about money. It's not about money, it's about impact. How is this country, this community, this world a better place because of what you've done? And if you really honestly can't say that you've made that impact, I don't think you're successful. I don't think you've really created any real wealth.